Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Laurie Johnson, and I'm here once again with Angela Crawley. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Laurie. So happy to be here with you again.
So good to see you too. And I'm so, um, just glad and happy that we're continuing our conversation that we had earlier this month because it was just fascinating and I'm interested in all this stuff. Um, so I had thrown out the phrase last time we talked, a phrase that I've heard in my meditation communities a whole bunch. Brain cells that fire together, wire together. And the moment I said it, which I didn't realize it was such a well-known phrase or
Right, right.
but I saw your eyes light up and then we had said, yeah, let's come back to that. Let's come back to that sometime. So yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about that today. And Angela, you also last Friday, you and I met, not on Facebook Live, you and I just met and you taught me an amazing, wonderful, simple technique. So I wanted to let everybody know about that and what it's been like practicing with that for the week.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this particular Facebook Live because you have not taken this course, right?
No, nope.
So we have been talking about these ideas theoretically.
Mhm.
And for many of the people listening to us, it's theoretical, right?
Right.
And the course I've created, Neuroplasticity and Exploration Through Movement, is really meant to be for anybody who simply wants to improve, have more tools for
Right.
how they feel, right?
Right, because I'm coming at this not from my professional life as I teach a little bit of Pilates, I'm in the Pilates world, but really from my own personal life, just dealing with anxiety, depression, whole host of mental stuff, and found great value just from from just one little simple technique that you gave me.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And you and I are both movement professionals, but as you said, you have certain challenges. And as I've talked about, I've been recovering from a traumatic brain injury. But one doesn't need to have a diagnosis to
Right.
be at this moment in time in the world challenged with the amount of stress we face in the world, right?
Right.
So, if you think about like stress or anxiety, those are really healthy responses that
Mhm.
are built into us to protect us.
Right.
So they're like a warning sign of, hey, I'm in danger, or hey, this is too much,
Mhm.
right? And yet, sometimes when we're vulnerable, as you and I each have been, or sometimes when one has just been under a lot of stress for too long, it all starts to go haywire, and that it's no longer just a reaction to a danger, for example, that would be appropriate in any animal, right? But it becomes problematic. It like takes over, right? And who doesn't want to have tools to be able to get into that sweet spot? I mean, you don't need a diagnosis to want to be able to get into that place where you're calm, you're clear, you're focused and creative, right?
Yeah.
And creativity is your thing, basically.
Mhm.
And so let's go back a moment and talk a little bit more about what you said. Um, Neurons that wire together, fire together. What is
Fire
that all about?
together and wire together. I had to look that up, which way it goes. It's fire together, wire
Wire together.
together. But, it's appropriate the other way too. I wouldn't say it's completely wrong.
Fire together, wire together. Right, right. So as the messages come through our nervous system, the neurons are firing, creating messages that create maps in our brains, right? And whatever's going on in the outside world, there's an inside world of movement in our bodies, of breath, for example, as um, just a very obvious connection,
Right.
right?
Right.
So our breathing becomes then connected or wired together and associated with other things, which is kind of obvious if you think of how we respond to stress with our breath, or if you're running, it changes. If you're doing different things, it changes. So anything that happens repetitively over time develops more stronger and stronger connections, right? And the more different things that happen together at the same time, the greater number of connections there are. And as time goes on, if one is feeling stressed or anxious under many different situations or over a period of time, the associations grow and grow.
And they just get, let me ask if this is correct. And then when those pathways are, repeating and repeating and repeating, then it's easier for someone, like for myself, to drop into those anxious times because the pathways are getting
exactly. Those pathways become stronger and faster, and they become extremely reactive and sensitized. So they're triggered really, really easily, and they take over a lot of different centers of ourselves. So if you could share with people, what do you experience in terms of, for example, when you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed and you're trying to do some of your work?
Oh, okay. It comes in a bunch of different varieties, so I won't go into all of it. But I would say I'll go for what I think a lot of people could relate to, just like all over the place, here, there, everywhere. I got to do this. What do I have to do? I can't remember. I lose track of that. Just like that hurried sort of now, like now or never. You have to do it now,
but you kind of can't get to it.
Yeah, and it's a very chaotic sort of, I feel like things are just firing in my brain left and right. And it spirals and spirals and spirals, and like we said, it's almost like I drop into that quicker. The more I'm in it, the faster I drop into it. So it's a lot of work to get out of it.
Yeah, it becomes sort of a deeper trench, if you will.
Right. And it begins to feel normal. Like, that's just me.
Yeah. And so how do we make a shift, and how do we use movement to make a shift? And so you and I got together and we spent, how long would you say?
Oh, like 10 minutes, a little less.
Yeah, about 10 minutes only. And what we did was we wired apart the connections. So there's what fires together wires together. So how do you wire it apart, right? So what we did were some very soothing movements with your hands and your feet. You were lying down at rest, so it's easiest to learn these things in a very restful, peaceful environment at first, right? And if you think about how many nerve cells there are in the hands and the space the hands occupy in the brain and the homunculus, it's a great highway to get inside the brain.
I didn't think of that, but yeah, of course.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's right. It's like, yeah, of course. And how long have our hands been with us in terms of evolution, but in terms of from the womb on, what you see what a baby's doing with their hands, like right away, right? And so Dr. Feldenkrais, this is based off the Feldenkrais system, late in his life really developed this tool called the bell hand, which is just a very, very simple opening and closing. Yeah, so the hand is soft and it's just opening and closing, right? Now, why would I choose to do that? Because I want to bring your brain's attention somewhere else, somewhere that has a lot of sensory input. And somewhere where you can feel sensation that's soothing, right? And through that soothing sensation, it starts to expand through the rest of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember afterwards you saying that you realized at some point your jaw wasn't clenching and it had been all the
Yes,
time.
and
You
it
didn't
has,
remember like when that happened,
yeah,
but it stopped,
yeah.
right? So our brain is attracted to, just like that anxiety is there for good reason, for protection, we can also trust our brain that it's seeking what we need. So when you have that feeling of overwhelm and you provide a sensation of ease, of soothing, that's an attractor.
Mm-hmm.
So for neurons to wire together, they have to be attracted. And so that is much more attractive to what your primal survival needs are asking for than that chaotic feeling, right?
Right.
And it can kind of then bring you into a sense of like coming home into. I noticed as we were working that just that few minutes, I could see your belly begin to expand, your breath begin to release.
Mm-hmm.
And once that happens, the whole nervous system starts to normalize.
That's exactly how I would describe it. And again, I was just laying on my back, just really simple movements with my fingers, and then a couple of simple movements with my feet. And it felt nervous system relaxing is exactly how it felt. Not like, oh, I'm all relaxed and I'm just hanging out, having a great, it was a real electrical kind. Oh, and when I got up, I had said, oh my God, the whole right half of my head was like tingly and cold in
Mm,
a comfortable way.
yeah.
I remember saying that too. So it was,
Yeah.
I definitely felt the nervous system thing.
And I remember there was a shift in your face, looked more relaxed, and yet your voice was quite clear, and the focus of your eyes was quite clear when we finished after just that few
I
minutes.
know, right?
So I want to talk about how this happens over time. So you've got this really, really strong pattern that's easily triggered, the sensitive pattern that takes over, right?
Mhm.
And then you just had this experience, right? Now, this isn't voodoo magic. It's not like if you only did it that one time, then there you're done. There's no more anxiety that goes on, right?
Right.
It's a tool that you can use to go to. And just like any other fire together, wire together pattern, the more you do it, the stronger those pathways get and the more familiar they get to you. And you can begin to then extend it out of that environment of where you're lying down in a very quiet environment. And the more you get to know it, the stronger those new pathways become, the
Mhm.
more accessible they become to you.
Mhm.
So, for example, just sitting in that chair right now, if you want to just take one hand onto your thigh.
Yeah. Can I ask you a quick question first before that?
Sure, sure.
So I did notice uh in this like I almost feel like this is proving exactly what you said, what you're saying. At one point this week, I woke up in the middle of the night with major anxiety, racing thoughts, panic, one of the big instances. So much so that I didn't want to do the technique. I didn't want to do anything, but I imagined it. So I wasn't physically doing the
Nice.
finger movements, but I went
Nice.
back to remembering what they were.
Yeah.
And I was definitely able to calm myself down.
So through imagination, actually, you're still firing the neurons of
Right.
that activity. It's like if you think about saying something, even if you don't say it,
Uh-huh.
it's likely that there's activity going on at your voice
Right.
box, for example.
Right.
So just by imagining it, you're actually firing that pathway.
All right.
And you experience that.
Cool. Very cool. All right. Back to today. So you want my hand on my thigh, you said?
Yeah, yeah. So you can begin to as experiment with this in any situation. So there we were, you were lying on your back, you were in a perfectly calm environment. And the idea is that this becomes so familiar that you could be on a crowded subway and have your hand on your leg
Mhm.
and just be doing this really simple movement, which is just simply bringing your fingers a little closer together and then taking them a little further apart. Yeah. And letting the hands stay soft as you do so. And then just really sensing actually the texture of your pants with your fingers. So there we're triggering all of those. Yeah, I like that you close your eyes. Yeah, you can go inside into the sensation. Yeah, and if we stayed with that for 5 minutes, you could get substantial results just from that. So it's like we spread a new pathway through yourself. So you have a tool that you can drop into. Yeah, good. So that's an example of something that you can do like anywhere, anytime.
Mhm.
So when you feel, and it's really important that as soon as you feel yourself going the other way,
Mhm.
that you bring in these tools sooner than later,
Mhm.
so that you don't let them take over to where the stress or the anxiety has a hold of you.
Mhm.
You begin to recognize sooner than later the
Mhm.
sensations of just being a little bit irritable or a little bit disorganized. And if you can start to practice sooner than later,
Mhm.
then we can start to win by expanding this map. And you've got a tool you can take with you anytime.
Right. And a good tool. I know I I typically will, like, when I'm getting anxious, I'll like squeeze my fingertips, which is not a good feeling. It seems the opposite, where this is a soothing sort of good thing for my body.
Yeah, yeah. Or sometimes if you're teaching Pilates, you might see a person lying on the reformer and their hands are clenched,
Mhm. Mhm.
And even on a massage table, I'll see that sometimes.
Right.
And it really tells us like what's going on a deeper
Right.
level inside.
Right.
Because when that's happening, it's really difficult to be able to learn, to be able to focus.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Very, very cool. So techniques like this is just a simple example of what we'll be doing in your course in October, um, and everything behind it, all the science behind it, or you tell me more about what I'm going to experience in October.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the science behind it
Mhm.
and the progression of science and why we use movement in
Mhm.
terms of getting there and the history of neuroplasticity, because it's very helpful to have a cognitive understanding of why this is working.
Okay.
And then we're going to go through a number of movement experiences, expanding on the kind of thing that you did,
Uh-huh.
that really anyone is capable of doing. It's, they can't lie down, they can do it in their bed or sitting in a chair or even in their imagination as you experience
Mhm.
to gain success.
Mhm.
And this works in a multitude of situations. So it's not just necessarily for stress or anxiety. It can be used as a tool like pre-performance for an athlete.
Okay.
For example, it can be used for people who have chronic pain, like who just need a tool to be able to recenter themselves, to feel that balance between being calm and clear and focused.
Mhm. Wow. Like, I'm very excited. Very excited.
And also in the course, we'll create a recording so that people can then practice these. Like
Oh,
you said
nice.
that you practiced this through the week. What did you experience?
Well, I had that experience during the night when I just imagined it, and then I did practice it a number of other times, just in a not laying down, just sitting up, in different places in my life this week. and trying it, and it felt like it was able to soften or slow down my racing thoughts. So yeah, I did find it effective and in a good go-to rather than my usual anxiety things that I do. So yeah.
Nice. So gradually it begins to travel with us more.
Yeah, yeah,
So that it becomes more a state of your being.
right.
Yeah.
And easier to
Easier to recall.
yeah.
Right. Easier to recall.
Not like, oh, that thing Angela taught me. It was more just like my body automatically starts.
Yeah, they're very natural movements, and so they're very easy to recall and to utilize.
Yeah, well, thank you so very much because it was very helpful for me.
Well, it was fun to make it real, to make it, instead of being theoretical, to make it tangible, to give you a real experience that you can share with other people today.
So if anyone watching right now is interested more in your course, neuroplasticityiinaction.com. What?
The URLs.
Oh, the URLs in the comments. Yeah, right down there, right down below.
It's in the comments. Okay.
In the comment section down below. So you can click there, find out more about Angela's online 2-day course coming up in October. And anything else?
I'd love to do another one of these and talk about how this can be used for pain.
Okay, I think we should do it.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, so we'll be back in another couple of weeks, maybe next week. And we'll talk about how these techniques can help with some pain.
And yeah, especially chronic pain is very, very useful.
Okay, great. Well, Angela, it's always a pleasure to see you and just always so interesting and lovely to talk to you. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in our next Facebook Live.
Thank you, Laurie.
Bye.